a distant arm of the galaxy, a large planet was discovered, rich in resources, but utterly inhospitable to life. Humans, hardly being a species to be told no, took it upon themselves to make this planet more hospitable. This history was a point of pride for the new inhabitants and recorded well, which brings us to the Museum of Train History, where the curator was leading a tour. The crowd that followed him were intrigued and listened to his every word as he walked through the exhibits.
Now, of course, as you all know, this planet is most well known today for its extensive train systems, hence the museum. But do you know why we have so many trains? Tracks by the thousands, some only for specific trains. Trains as houses, trains as hotels, and as hostels, trains as business. Why are we so dependent upon them? When humanity first discovered this planet, you see, it was a death trap, unfit for any life, so they planned to terraform it. Unfortunately, it was also the largest planet ever found, and the terraforming process would take a long time. In fact, it took 500 years. But humans seek profit as much as they seek discovery, so the conclusion was, why wait 500 years for a planet to turn a profit? They sent drones to lay tracks, built sealed pressurized trains to roam the planet and mine resources, and voila! Systems of commerce etched across an unlivable rock.
They finished their tour through placards and poster boards into the functional museum filled with examples of the trains in question. Some single story, some double-decker. Audience interest peaked at the sight of these trains, long, narrow cubes of metal running on little wheels.
How do they live in these? They're so small. The answer is through this door. Step inside.
And the tour stepped inside. The thin train car door opened into a large, ample space, bigger on the inside. It wasn't a huge difference, but enough that the seemingly cramped exteriors deceived its roominess.
Dimensional grafting, in its very early days, was a lifesaver, bringing these train cars about 10 to 20% increases in eternal dimensions. The exorbitantly priced leisure models that came with tourism were able to push 40%, but with less longevity. Now, let's exit via the opposite wall and you'll see something extraordinary.
They exited the roomy interiors back into the cramped exterior, to be met with the sight of a triple-decker. Ornately styled, but worn with time and neglect, it had an imposing aura that filled them with wonderment.
The most prized possession of our museum, and the rarest sight ever, a triple-decker, the only of its kind. According to the history, it was once capable of eternal expansion up to 500%.
Enthused muttering littered the room, until a clear voice rose against the rabble.
What do you mean, once? Well, this is where it gets interesting. The train no longer functions at all. Its parts were destroyed by the previous owner. Due to its known design and construction, many believe it was not even made by humans. It has a most intriguing and dark history, one we have clear records of from the aforementioned previous owner. This is, in fact, a sort of phantom train. The owner of this train, a man named Dodar, grew up on a standard double-decker train system, one of the nicer ones, used for tourists, Entertaining, lodging, activities, it was a pleasant stage of life. Barring one issue, he had a brother. And he didn't have a brother. He had spent his whole life insisting upon the existence of a brother, but none in his family knew of any such twin, and it created a schism amongst them.
Elise, you know my brother exists. You have to.
Not this again. Auntie, he's doing it again. Darling, we've had this talk before. You don't have a brother. You've never had a brother.
You're wrong. I know I have a brother. I remember him clearly. Why don't you?
This argument was repeated in variations all over his youth and adulthood, though it waned with age, not because of a lack of belief, but tiredness of the repetition of denial, disregard, and loathing that stemmed from it. His grandmother died, other family died, and eventually he shared the train with 3 cousins. They no longer entertained or worked, merely living in the train, breaking up the room into 4 separate quarters so they could minimize interaction with each other. The bitterness was oppressive.
Toda, the money isn't coming in any easier. We don't mine. We don't host. We need something.
Well, what do you suggest, Elise?
Open the train back. Bring people back in. Parties like grandmother arranged. We still have everything, even her recipes. Those cookies would be reason enough to unseal the archive card.
You're right about those cookies, but I can't do that. His family is toxic. Walls keep us civil. If we lose that, it's just going to be chaos and misery.
It doesn't have to be. You could apologize for everything. We all did what we had to do. We were always worried about you and only had your best interests at heart. I was put in a straitjacket and sent to that facility for 7 months. 7 months of torture, analysis, criticism. 7 months of being called a liar, an attention seeker, a nut job. All because none of you remember my brother. You never had a It doesn't matter. I love you, but we can't keep this up. We need money.
Toda reacted to this with humor and a lightheartedness he'd not felt in a very long time. But it was brief, and quickly replaced with his usual quiet calmness.
Look, I understand. What if we get a second train? Nothing grand, just one we can entertain with. Then we can continue living as we are and being amicable.
The months after this were spent exploring the train yards in search of a good secondary. Costs were high, options limited. Even though the planet was mostly habitable by this point, the trains had strangled development beyond the rail system. Then, in a junk heap, he came across, well, this marvel.
Oh no. SG 2700 looks like the best option, but can't you bring the cost down?
Hey, I'd already be losing out, Todor. It's not feasible.
Fine, I'll just keep Wait a minute, what is that? What is that? A triple decker? Do those even exist?
Not outside of that one. Been here as long as I can remember. Never been inside. Can't get in. Weird lock system.
How much?
Want to buy something you probably can't even get inside of?
How much?
3,000 credits. It's worth it just to get it out of my yard.
So Toda purchased the disused train and used a mag level to hitch it to the family train and transport it to a work zone.
Can't be that hard to unlock. Let's see. Something this old. Turn it on.
A hushed, distorted sound, almost like a whisper, tickled Toda's mind. He was alerted but unaware of the sound's origin or intention.
Huh? Probably just wind. Old parts catching and making sounds. Anyway, let's see. Master Lock 13. Weird name. Looks like a biometric scanner is here as a backup. Old man probably never tried it, but with as old as this is, it may have worn down enough that...
Toda scanned his own data into the lock, and it activated its release function, falling to the ground.
Yep, there we go. Too old. It just works for anyone. Lucky me, it still worked mechanically as well.
Toda put aside the lock, slid open the door to the train, and entered. The accounts he's written enthusiastically describe the incomprehensible grandeur before him. A grand entrance hall easily 20 feet high, with a full double staircase of exquisite ornate design. The whole stretched out wider than could be measured by eye.
Well, we'll definitely make money with this.
The voice echoed through the breezes and creaking of the train once again, only tickling Toda's awareness ever so slightly.
Creepy train, loading parts, no lights, obviously haunted. I wonder if the generator's still connected at all.
He flipped all the usual switches that were easily accessible in the main hall to no great success. Consigned to the darkness, made less than black only by the starlight coming from a seemingly glass ceiling, he decided to wait until morning to continue investigation of the new prize. Next, though, came dealing with his family at supper. $3,000 credits. 3,000 credits that could have fed this family for 5 years on a dead train you picked up in a garbage heap. I suppose it makes sense, really. Dead train, dead family, dead dreams, dead brother.
I thought I didn't have a brother.
You never did, hence dead. Dead is not existing. You'll be joining him if this idiotic investment doesn't pay off. Honestly, why did we ever agree to let...
Say it. Go ahead, say it.
I don't mean it. I am just... I'm worried for us. This is a huge risk.
I still want you to say it.
Let you out of that place. I didn't mean it.
It'll pay off. When you see it tomorrow, you'll understand how big we've hit it. And I do mean big. I just need to locate the generator connections to get them running. If the dimension grafting is still running at this level of power, it's just faulty wiring or something. You'll eat your words.
Well, they'll be tastier than this. What even is this?
Protein 7 with various fats and some carbs 25.
Lovely. Well, you're right. We'll be able to afford food that doesn't come out of a bacterium's backside. The next day came, and the train was once again opened. Elise and Toda entered the great hall, and while Toda still felt a swell of emotion at the stunning interior, it paled in comparison to the gasps Elise emitted on her first time inside the unfathomable structure. I am eating my words. I'm eating all of them. This could save us. This could make us. This train could change everything. It might even make us a family again.
Yeah, let's be realistic.
They split courses, Toda taking the east side of the train, Elise taking the west. Toda found a room, darkened by a lack of windows or glass ceiling. The light from the main hall illuminated enough to see many shades standing in various places. With mild trepidation, he reached out and pulled on one of the sheets, causing it to fall, and revealed a very standard lamp. Just coverings for furniture, nothing more. A standard room in need of lighting.
Turn it on.
The voice was clearer this time, undeniable but still hushed. A chair creaked slightly, as if weight was shifting on it. Todar's nerves fired, and he was alert and on edge once again. I swear I've heard that before. Last night? Is someone here? Look, I'm not gonna hurt you, whoever you are. I just may need to talk about rent. This is my train now. Were you here before? He slowly walked deeper into the murky room until he came across the sheet of a chair he'd heard. In it was a doll. A strange little doll with a face that struck him as very familiar. I swear, I've seen you. On the other side of the train, Elise had no greater luck in locating any panels or ports related to the generator or power restoration. She had instead found a very clean and tidy guest room, unremarkable outside of its exquisite furnishings and horrendous odor. Oh, God. What is that stench? It's like something died in here. Why, yes, my child, said a cloaked man, fully in black, including his charred, decaying flesh. Except the one who died is you. Todar leaned closer to the doll, utterly hypnotized by its visage, and searching for a hint as to why he found it so familiar. You look so familiar. Almost like me, but not quite. His thoughts were interrupted by a loud scream from the other side of the train. Ah! Forgetting the doll, he ran out the room, across the lengthy great hall, towards where Elise had gone. Elise! Elise! Where are you? What happened? Elise! Turn it on. Turn it on. Turn it on. The echoing voice became a scream in Todar's head. But still he ran, hoping to find his cousin and escape this hellish experience unscathed. He eventually decided to turn back to the Great Hall and see if she'd gone back there. He was greeted with an odd sight, a doll, different from the other one, standing in the middle of the Great Hall. The doll wore a familiar dress and had long brown hair, a color that felt very familiar. He approached slowly and cautiously, nerves on edge and frayed entirely. Another doll? Where did it come from? As he walked a circle around the doll and came face to face with it, he went pale and breathless, stumbling back in a dead panic and confused fear. The doll was a perfect duplicate of Elise. It can't be. It's just like Elise. The sound of ceramic tapping on the floor grew behind him. He turned to see the other doll approaching. In the daylight from the sky roof, he could see it clearly. A face he knew. A face he'd recognized. A face he'd never seen, but knew so well. My brother. Elise, why, what's happening?